r/NoSleep. Posted by u/Carbodex. Children never returning from the streets. The hissing of steam from the subway grates interrupted the silence of the evening. City lights cast long, menacing shadows over the pavement. Right in front of me, a missing child poster flapped in the breeze. It had been plastered on a lamppost, rain-washed and barely clinging. I had seen that face before. Street vendors sold questionable street food, with grease pooling on their grill tops. A thin wisp of smoke emanated from their carts, blending with the city's fog. At that hour, only the brave or the foolish roamed the streets. "I told you," a voice sneered, breaking me from my reverie. I turned to see Marco, an old friend from high school. "Children go missing here. Every damn week." I glared. And nothing," he laughed, taking a drag from his cigarette, the orange glow illuminating his face in a sinister dance. "Just stating the facts." I'd come back to the city after years abroad. Upon my return, the rumors had started, whispers about children who'd vanish into thin air, never to return. The rumors were suffocating, and their impact on the community palpable. "That's the third kid this month," a woman murmured to her friend as they hurried past, clutching their bags tighter, casting suspicious glances at anyone who dared to make eye contact. "I heard it's a man," said a homeless guy, propped up against a brick wall, a tattered hat placed in front of him with meager coins. "Tall, wears a hat. Stalks them, he does." Marco scoffed, exhaling a plume of smoke. "Urban legends. Every city's got one." "Then explain the disappearances," I retorted. He shrugged. "Maybe they ran away? Maybe it's a trafficking ring? Who knows? It's the city, things happen." My fingers itched to slap the indifference from his face. But the seed of fear had been planted. I started seeing the missing child posters everywhere, on lampposts, bus stops, alleyways. One evening, while walking through the park, I saw a group of children playing. The setting sun cast a golden hue over their innocent faces, their laughter echoing, forming a stark contrast to the tales of horror that loomed large. In the distance, a silhouette stood watching, a man in a hat. I squinted, trying to get a better look. The figure melted away, almost as if it had never been there. The fear grew. Every time I'd hear a child's laughter, my heart would race. Every shadow, every whisper, every creak became a harbinger of doom. My nights were sleepless, the weight of the city's dark secret pressing down on me. One night, as I was taking a shortcut through an alley, the familiar sound of children's laughter sent shivers down my spine. I strained my ears, trying to locate the source. It seemed to be coming from an old, dilapidated building, its windows boarded up, a relic from a time long past. Against my better judgment, I approached, feeling an inexplicable pull. As I neared the entrance, the laughter grew louder, more distinct, but eerily off. It sounded distorted. The front door creaked open, revealing a dark hallway. From within, the giggles continued. My feet moved of their own accord, leading me deeper into the abyss. Each step echoed, a rhythmic beat that only seemed to amplify the terror coursing through me. A dim light at the end of the hallway beckoned. The room it led to was bathed in an otherworldly glow. At the center stood a massive mirror, its ornate frame decorated with grotesque faces. The reflection, however, was not my own. Instead, the faces of the missing children stared back, their eyes hollow, their smiles twisted in eternal torment. "Help us," they whispered in unison. From the shadows, a tall figure emerged, the brim of his hat casting a shadow over his face. "Another for my collection," he mused, his voice dripping with malevolence. I tried to move, to scream, to do anything, but my feet were rooted to the spot, paralyzed by an unseen force. As the figure approached, the room grew colder, the children's faces in the mirror growing more desperate. The man's hand reached out, inches from my face, and suddenly, a blinding light filled the room. A cacophony of sounds, sirens, shouts, the distant wail of a child. The spell was broken. I turned and ran, never looking back. But the nightmare was far from over. I burst into the open night, gulping in the chilled air, the neon city lights blurry through my tears. The horrifying vision in the building was imprinted on my mind, those children, their faces warped with terror, the tall man reaching out for me. The sirens grew louder, reverberating through the empty streets, only to drown out when I stumbled upon Marco, a concerned expression replacing his usual indifference. "What happened?" he panted, grabbing my shoulders. "I followed you when I saw you enter that building." But I could only point back to the cursed structure, my voice a mere whisper. "He's in there." Marco's eyes darted to the building, then back to me. Without a word, he pulled me away, ushering me toward the brighter part of town, away from the echoing laughter and the haunting shadows. We found ourselves in a 24-hour diner, the sterile fluorescent lights seeming alien after the night's events. I narrated everything, and Marco listened intently, occasionally sipping his black coffee. "You're lucky to have gotten out," he muttered, tapping his finger nervously on the counter. "There are legends, you know, of the man in the hat. They say he traps souls, feeds on the innocent." "But why children?" My voice wavered, and a passing waitress shot me a worried glance. Marco sighed. "Children are pure, their energies untainted. And urban areas? They're hunting grounds, filled with distractions, making it easier to prey." Dawn approached, and we decided to notify the police. Their skepticism was palpable, yet the consistent disappearances provided some weight to our story. They agreed to inspect the building. What they found sent shivers down the spine of even the most seasoned officer. Inside that room with the mirror, the atmosphere was thick, stifling. The walls were lined with old photographs, each displaying a missing child, their eyes vacant. In the center stood the grand mirror, but it was ordinary now, reflecting nothing but the grim faces of the officers. However, the most disturbing discovery was a room concealed behind thick drapes. Inside, a maze of strings connected pinned pictures, notes, and bizarre symbols. Each thread intertwined, leading to a single image in the center, a sketch of the man in the hat. Below it, a chilling note: "The city feeds, and so shall I." News spread like wildfire. The city was in an uproar. Vigilante groups formed, vowing to hunt down the man in the hat. Parents held their children close, and night saw the streets deserted. Weeks turned into months, but the city's palpable fear remained. The disappearances halted, but the memories persisted, a shadow over every home. One evening, as rain lashed against the window panes, I received a call. An unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. A raspy voice, dripping with malice, whispered, "You escaped once, but the city never forgets." Frozen, I could only listen as soft, distorted laughter echoed in the background. I slammed the phone down, my heart pounding. The man in the hat wasn't done. The city's nightmare had only just begun. Despite the overwhelming dread, there was a determination that burned within me. I couldn't let this malevolent entity continue its reign of terror. Teaming up with Marco and a group of other survivors, we decided to delve deeper, to unearth the truth behind this urban legend. Our research led us to ancient myths, stories of entities that existed in shadows, thriving on fear. The more they were feared, the stronger they became. Legends spoke of mirrors as portals, realms where these beings could trap souls, feasting on their essence. We needed to destroy the source of his power, that accursed mirror. Armed with tools and determination, we made our way back to the building. The entrance seemed more foreboding than before, its dark void beckoning us, challenging us. Inside, the silence was oppressive. The mirror room awaited, the large glass surface reflecting our anxious faces. Taking a deep breath, I swung a sledgehammer. The impact sent ripples across the city. Every street, every home, every heart felt it. As cracks appeared, the trapped souls began to break free. The city, once cloaked in darkness, started to breathe again. But it wasn't over yet. From the mirror's depths, the man in the hat emerged, his form more terrifying than any legend could convey. Our final battle had begun. The room's temperature plummeted. Our breaths became visible, forming vaporous clouds in the freezing air. The man in the hat moved with unnatural speed, a mere blur as he lunged at us. Marco and the others tried to restrain him, but it was like fighting a hurricane, his sheer force overwhelming. His eyes, pools of infinite darkness, locked onto mine, and I felt a pull, an overwhelming desire to succumb. Those eyes, they promised peace, an end to the constant dread. But beneath that, a current of malevolence lurked. "Join the others," he hissed, his voice echoing with the pain and sorrow of all his victims. But I wasn't ready to give up. Remembering the research, I shouted, "Don't look into his eyes. He draws strength from our fear." Distracting him with makeshift weapons and tools, we circled the mirror, chanting an ancient spell we had discovered during our research. The room quaked, the very foundation of the building groaning under the force. The mirror's cracks began to grow, each fracture emitting a piercing scream, the collective voices of the trapped souls demanding release. The man in the hat's strength waned. He tried to retreat into the mirror, to escape the onslaught, but our chants grew louder, drowning out his anguished cries. With one final surge of energy, the mirror shattered, sending shards flying in all directions. The room was engulfed in blinding light, a force so potent it threw us back. As the light dimmed, we slowly got to our feet, taking in the aftermath. The man in the hat was gone. In his place, a pile of ashes and a worn-out hat lay on the floor, marking the end of an ancient terror. The walls, once lined with haunting photographs, now displayed blank frames, their tormented occupants finally free. Exhausted, we made our way out, the first rays of dawn painting the city in hues of hope. The streets, for the first time in months, echoed with genuine, joyful laughter. Children played without fear, and families reunited, the weight of the dark past slowly fading away. News of our victory spread, turning us into local heroes. But we knew the truth, the city's true heroes were its inhabitants, their collective spirit and hope being the real force that banished the evil. Yet, the city bore scars, reminders of its tormented past. The once abandoned building became a memorial, dedicated to the lost souls, ensuring the city would never forget. Years went by, and life moved on. But every now and then, on quiet nights, when the city's heartbeat slowed, whispers would rise, of a time when shadows held power, of brave souls who fought back, and of a man in a hat whose reign of terror was no more. However, urban legends have a way of persisting, tales passed down from generation to generation. And while the city had fought off one darkness, who's to say what other horrors lurked in its depths, just waiting for their time to rise?